Welcome to our podcast today, OrthoTutorials. My name is Ezekiel Oburu. This is a podcast dedicated to making orthopedics understandable to medical students and medical officers. Our topic of today is clubfoot or congenital talipes equinovarus. Clubfoot is one of the most common congenital anomalies, and when I discuss this with medical students, I tell them the buzzword in this topic is Ponseti, because when you mention Ponseti, then somebody has a great awareness that you understand what clubfoot is. There's been a lot of evolution and changes in how clubfoot has been managed over the years. Initially, all patients or almost all patients were getting surgery, but this has changed significantly since the advent of the Ponseti method of managing clubfoot. So there are a number of theories that are associated or that are used to describe the pathogenesis of congenital clubfoot. And really, I will leave you to have a look at this in various textbooks because they may not be particularly practical in the management of clubfoot. Suffice it to say, the true etiology is really unknown and therefore idiopathic. The incidence of clubfoot in the general population is about 1 per 1,000 live births. The incidence in first-degree relations is approximately 2%. The incidence in second-degree relations is approximately 0.6%. If one monozygotic twin has CTEV, which is the abbreviation for congenital talipes equinovarus, the second twin may have about 32% chance of getting the same condition. There are subpopulations that have got a higher incidence. For example, the Polynesians, particularly in the country of Tonga, have close to about 75 cases per 1,000 live births. Now, when you get a patient with clubfoot, one of the things that one should really emphasize to the parents, because the parents will be very worried, is that this is really something that can be corrected. What is the main pathology in clubfoot? There's a mnemonic to this. You can remember this by the mnemonic CAVE. And the C stands for cavus deformity, in which you have a midfoot cavus. The A is for forefoot adduction. The V is for hindfoot varus, and the E is for equinus. We don't really need any radiology to diagnose clubfoot. Now, what's the treatment? The treatment of clubfoot can be non-operative or operative. But really, since the advent of the Ponseti method, most of these patients are treated through the non-operative method. Now, what does Ponseti involve? Ponseti involves a series of serial manipulations and casting. The details and the steps can be found really in a standard orthopedic textbook or a pediatric orthopedic textbook. Suffice it to say, I will mention a number of steps. One of the first steps is to supinate the forefoot gently by lifting the dropped first metatarsal to correct the cavus deformity, and this allows you to align the forefoot and the hindfoot. After this is corrected, the next principle really is to abduct the foot until one is able to correct the adduction. Once you have managed to do this, then you'll need to correct the equinus, and most of the patients will need percutaneous tenotomy. What are the number of casts that are needed? The number of casts may be up to about 7 casts, although some patients may need slightly less or some may need slightly more. This cast should be well molded and should be above the knee. The Achilles tenotomy is done in the outpatient clinic with local anesthetic. After the Achilles tenotomy is done, the last cast is put for about 3 weeks. So I think it's important to note this, that the total number of casts that may be required may be up to 7 casts because you're changing this cast weekly. But the last cast, remember, is put for about 3 weeks. After achieving correction, then the child will need a splint. And there are various splints depending on where the patient is. The standard splint is the Denise Brown splint. In the Denise Brown splint, the affected foot is abducted at about 70 degrees, while the unaffected foot is set at about 45 degrees abduction. And this splint is worn for 23 hours a day for the first 3 months and worn at night and during naps for up to 3 years. Some people even go up to about 4 years. The Ponseti method is relatively successful in the management of clubfoot. Now, are there patients who will need surgery? I think that there are some patients who have clubfoot that's quite resistant, patients with arthrogryposis, and patients with conditions like spina bifida. And I think that it's important even during examination to check for these conditions and if the patient may have any other associated musculoskeletal congenital anomalies. The details of how surgery is done, I think that is really not in the realm or at the level of a medical student and should be reserved for orthopedic surgeons or pediatric or orthopedic surgeons. So that in brief is how you manage clubfoot. Relatively simple to remember. Thank you very much and see you next time.